Shalom, shalom, everyone. Well, thank you once again for joining the House of Shiloh Ministries, where we continue in the FAQ series, the frequently asked questions, where we answer in this long lesson the questions and contradictions that the doctrine of Christianity creates with what it teaches. We're in part 23 of the FAQ, where we're dealing with the historical truth of who Israel is and what history speaks to it. Again, this is sponsored by the House of Shiloh Ministries, and it's presented by yours truly, Brother Andrew Bradley. We've already done some discussion on some historical book references in who Israel is and where you can find them and what features they have and so on. Now we're going to go into strictly visual proof of ancient Israel and from different places and unusual places that demonstrate some eye-opening truths. So let's go ahead and move into the lesson and let's physically see who Israel is and where you can find them. We're going to start our visual history in a Greek translation of the Book of Psalms called the Bristol Psalter, written and drawn, I might add, in the 11th century. All right? 11th century. So you're talking more than almost 1,000 years, right? A little over 1,000 years, probably, somewhere around there, because it was written in the 11th century, drawn in the 11th century. So it's close to 1,000 years old or so. That's significant. That's really significant. This is a major witness. The image, you can look up the Bristol Psalter. It's in a museum, I believe, in England or the United Kingdom. And these are hand-drawn images, right? Let me get my notes here just in case I don't miss anything. And you see the image on the left is the image of King David with a beard sitting in the center and a fro, and all the rest of the people with the musicians have a curly like fro. What's interesting, I want to point out something. Look who drew this. You see the circle around the head of David. That is in reference to the sun worshiping pagan imagery that the early church and the Roman Catholic Church still does it. Some of the church still does it, but this was the early church practice that was picked up through their pagan synchronism of the Roman Church, where they brought in other beliefs. But what I like about it is it shows you that even the early church, they might not like Torah, but they understood where the Torah and the scriptures came from. Still, they didn't hide it as aggressively as they did later on. All right, later on they did. There were some that did. I'm not saying that's not the case, but it wasn't so absolutely thorough. If you get into any of the books of history that date in the 1800s and above, the true representation of Israel disappears. Absolutely disappears, and you only see what we see today in the region of Israel today. In the history books, visually, everything. But before the 1800s, you go back to the early 1800s and 1700s on back, you see images like we'll see here today. And then you see here Peter weeping after denying Yahushua HaMashiach 3 times, remember? Now, Peter looks like somebody's uncle sitting on their front porch. Got a fro, got some gray, black gray. He's got that black salt and pepper gray. If you think this is not a black man, then you just don't want to know the truth. All right? Anybody want to add anything to this?
One quick comment is that you will find these similar images also being displayed in Russia, because they have no problems with admitting it either.
I believe I might have some images in Rush from Russia as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else? All righty. Let's continue. Here's another image from the Bristol Psalter. This is Yahushua Hamashiach with his disciples entering Jerusalem. All of them got clothes. All of them are brown.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are white. None of them.
You notice they have palms
All
in
right.
their
So.
hand too.
Yeah. But it's funny that they did this image in a book of the Psalms. But, yep. All right. Anybody have any other comments?
I have one more comment.
We're gonna go further back. Oh, yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
The one comment is, I think another reason, this is conjecture, so I want to say that first. But I'm thinking that the reason they draw this halo image behind the individual is to distinguish them as a son, or if it's behind a woman, or daughter of the Most High. Divinity is being implied when you see that. So I think that's their way of saying there's something distinct about this individual, divinely distinct about this person. So I'm thinking that's what that halo could symbolize from their point of view. But again, that's conjecture. That's all.
I wonder if it's in reference as well, conjecture, to the sainthood as well. As you know, this was a Catholic. This was a Catholic church at the time. You know, they still do this type of stuff. So I'm curious about that too. That's a history lesson. I can do some research on that. I'm curious.
Okay.
All righty. Here's something even further back. This is the Catacombs of Domitilla in Rome. Now, these date back 2,000 years, roughly. And there is some fading here. Can't help it, because they're painted on stones that were very whitish in appearance anyway. And you can tell the fading is in the image, because to the left, you have a true brown and afro-ish like hair. Then it gets light, then it goes back to brown, considerably brown to the far right. And this is Yahusha with his disciples. All right, and I believe this was at the last quote unquote, the Last Supper, the Passover meal. All right, so very old, very, very old, and this is in those catacombs that are under Rome. So this would have been drawn most likely by followers of the Hebrew body. The Hebrews themselves would have drawn this, or those who followed him. Because you would have had some of the dispersed of Israel still in Rome at that time. All right. Now so I just showed you a Greek witness from 1,000 years ago. I'm showing you a Roman witness nearly 2,000 years ago. Let's go to Italy, another part of Italy. This is the catacombs of Saints Marcellina and Peter on the Via Labicana in Italy, and this dates back to the 4th century. Again, these are brown images. Now, I would say, I think that's Peter to his left and Paul to his right, or one of them. I think Peter's to his left, but I'm not sure. Either way, you can't deny the dark complexion. You can't deny. One of the things, too, people do not appreciate about art. The artists draw in relation to what they call normal. It's not like they have a picture, right? So they will draw with posture and body types and shapes that they are used to. The only difference is they will be a different complexion. So you'll have slender, straighter, different type of features that will look more European because the artist that's drawing this is most likely a European person. He's just going to make this person brown. It's very common for artists to do that. It's not like they're going to be able to sit here and say, well, I don't know what features he had or what shape he had. So I'm going to draw other than the fact I know what region of the world he came from. So he's most likely brown. So I'm going to draw him brown, but I'm going to draw him with features similar to what I am familiar with. People do not think that or consider that when they look at some of these old drawings. You got alpha and omega, on the left and right, or right and left. All right. Anybody want to add anything? You got three major witnesses.
I do have a question.
1,000-year-old. Mm-hmm.
The image that's to the right, far right, underneath that individual's left hand, is that an alphabet I?
It looks like iota.
Uh-huh.
It does look like iota. Or, I wonder, it has to be, I would say it would be iota, but I don't know if it would be as well because the alpha and omega that's up top is not necessarily the same type.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's part of the chair that the disciple's sitting in.
Oh.
I think he might be sitting in something.
Good point. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Anybody else? All right. I think it's time to go to another unusual witness.
Wow.
The Black Madonna. You can Google this. This is an interesting story. The Black Madonna refers to statues and paintings in Western Christianity of the Virgin Mary and infant, quote unquote, Jesus, where both are depicted with very dark complexions or skin. And these were produced in the 13th and 14th century in Italy, but you'll find them all over Europe, even into Russia. You will find black representations, and we may talk about it. I may have it in here. There are over 400 or 500 black Madonnas in Europe alone. And they honestly associate these miracles with these things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead. You have something to say?
Oh, I just had a question.
Oh, go right ahead.
So, I guess it kind of makes sense, but why does only the European nations, like Russia and Europe, why are they the only ones to display, like, paintings of, like this, such as this, like, in their museum?
A lot of it has to do, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that Western Europe promotes this. They don't. They will tell you in a second that the Messiah is white. But some of the stuff that they have is so historically old, they can't destroy it. They won't destroy it because of the value they had for it. But it's a witness against their lives, such as those catacombs that are 2,000 years old and 15 to 1,600 years old. They won't destroy them because of the value of their antiquity, but they prove a lie, right? They prove what's not being taught. A lot of that stuff is kept quiet by Rome because Rome knows the source of the material and it knows the truth. Russia has not an agenda to hide the truth. Western Europe did because of the slave trade investment. They could not let it be known that there was a brown, black Messiah and you're enslaving people that look like him.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't do that. So they propagated, spread this teaching and changes in the scriptures in the way they taught the scriptures to produce a European version of the Messiah, because they knew who they took. We're going to talk about how they knew that. This lesson, we will finish this section in the lesson tonight, and we're going to show you how they knew exactly who they took. If they knew who they took, how can they teach he didn't look like who they took? So Russia had no problem showing the truth. They always accept. They just kept it that. They kept it that way. Now I'm not talking all of them do that. There's some areas that are very pro-white, very racist to minorities, blacks, the Jewish people, everybody in many cases. But I wouldn't say that's the majority of Russia. That's not. That's just a few ignorant ones, right? Just like we have in the United States. I would say the majority aren't hateful and evil like that in the United States. So Russia has those outliers, but the majority understand through their histories the truth was just the truth to them. Now, does modern Christian Russian modern Catholicism teach that the Messiah is black? Probably not. No, but they don't hide the history. They just ignore it. Europe tried to hide it and misteach it.
Okay.
So the audience will say, okay, well, these are some old images, but you may have somebody that says that's an opinion, right? That's what they felt, or that's what the Europeans might have felt because of whatever. They'll make up many excuses because they'll say these were converts or something because they were white when they were slaves in Egypt. Because you'd be surprised how creative these people get. So let's answer this question for me then. If the Hebrews were white, then what does tomb of Rekhmire thought to get his tomb, which dates back to 1400 BCE? See, the Most High knew what he was doing when he buried Egypt and turned it to dust. Because he actually put a seal on evidence. He put the evidence in the locker to be opened up later. Because the only way something like this could last 3,000 plus years is if it's sealed away. And this stuff was sealed away. What you're seeing is a depiction of Nubian and Semitic slaves. Now, I don't have to specify who's who if I don't want to, because if you notice, all of them are brown. Every single one of them are brown. Rekhmire was an ancient Egyptian noble of the 18th dynasty, circa 1400 BCE. His tomb is full of detailed art of dark brown people in Egypt, Nubian and Semitic and Hebrew. The picture to the right is a Egyptian, I don't know if it's a soldier, I can't remember the exact term, but he's beating a Hebrew slave. So this is a witness against people that speak ignorance. And I've heard it so many times. I've heard, great teachers that teach the scriptures in Torah, teach the fullness of Torah, and have a great understanding of it. And these are European descent people. Then they'll say quickly, when we were in Egypt. So you're ignoring the fact that you would have never survived if you were in Egypt because you don't have the body type, the skin for it. I'm sorry, you can't, a white skin would not survive in this time. Not that type of work. I'm sorry. Secondly, the tombs tell the truth. And I'm not talking about the tombs during the last dynasty, during the Ptolemaic era, where you had the Greeks ruling Egypt and had major influence on the population and the direction of the kingdom. No. This predates the Greeks. You can't hide it. All right, anybody else? Any comments?
Do you notice that this drawing is so purposeful? Because the backing, the foundation of the wall is white. So that means they put concerted effort to color in the skin of the individuals, yet leaving their aprons, their body aprons, white. So this is a white board that has been purposely filled in with brown skinned people. So you cannot say that it's the colors that are on the board, or the board was a dark board and it just happened to color or to cause the skin to be that color. This depicts intention. This was on purpose. So I just wanted to point that out for Andrew. Thank you.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
I do have a comment. You know what? When I see this picture, I cannot think about Moses. In the old pictures, like, in the old movies, I don't know if you ever seen like the Moses movie.
Oh,
everybody's white, even the Egyptians, right? So my theory is that Moses, being a Hebrew, of course, right? He needed to have some type of melanin in him, because otherwise they would have killed him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how can a white baby be, mixed with the Egyptians? The Egyptians, if you take a look at them, especially back then, they were black, they were brown. So Moses needed to fit in. The princess of the pharaoh needed to hide him. Therefore, I mean, how can you hide a white baby full of, brown or black people? That wouldn't make sense. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say he was also confused. He was, the women at the well thought he was an Egyptian. So he wasn't white to them. So you're right. You're right. There's no way. There's no way.
Just like they
There's
thought.
another one.
I'm sorry. Sorry, time delay.
No, go ahead.
Just like they thought Apostle Paul was an Egyptian also, which clearly indicates he was not. He was brown skinned. He was not white.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I totally agree with you. The image you see here, I don't have the date for it. Now, I could not find it, even though it's in the Hetch Museum in Haifa, Israel. Isn't this something? You have white Israelis saying that they're the true Jews, but in their own museum, they have a figure that depicts a Semitic slave. Explain it away. This is why you have the doctrine of mixed race in the mixed complexion of Semitic people. That's the doctrine people say. Well, the Israelites were various complexions. Black, dark black, brown, light brown, all the way to white and look like the Jews. That's the only way they can justify having this in the museum. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Black History 101.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read this to you. This is cool. Here is a mural from the Dura Europa synagogue in Syria. It is the oldest synagogue known to man. The reason you never hear about it is because the mural depicts Moses, Aaron, and the Israelites as black people. That's what you see in the mural. As well as the Egyptians. See how their skin is not olive. It is brown. I'm talking brown, true dark brown. The Dura Europa synagogue is an ancient synagogue that was uncovered at Dura Europa, Syria in 1932. It dates back to 244 CE.
Wow.
That's significant. Okay? So these are just some of the ancient, old, visual historical witnesses that we can see. Just a few. There is so much. What we're going to move to next is maps. I love maps.
Andrew, can I make a comment, please?
And then me too.
Okay.
Okay, both of y'all, make sure you speak up when you do, please, just so we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes. So you wonder why they whited out the pictures. What is so important about Yeshua and his bloodline being brown? What is so important about Moshe being brown? What is so important about Abraham being brown? Why did they want to make them white? What are they after? It's not eternal life, because they don't live their life in that form to get that. They're after the birthright of the son of Yahuwah. And they know that the birthright belonged to this family of Shem, the Shemites, who came down from Israel, which came through Jacob, 12 tribes, and then Yahudah being the government tribe, which means that he governs the money. And he has the power to make laws and break laws. What I mean by break laws, change laws. I see, she changed laws, not break them. She changed laws. So he's after power, and he's after the birthright, he's after money. This is why they rise us up a long time ago, because they want to take our place for a reason. And it's a monetary reason.
It's definitely a huge monetary reason. Go ahead, Mr. White.
That is what I was going to say. It really is. As I was going to say, the reason they don't destroy these murals and these ancient artifacts is because, do you know the money that they bring in every year for people coming to tour, to visit, and to see these artifacts, these murals, these ancient locations? They're not going to destroy them for monetary reasons. They are money bank for them. So you ask why they keep them around and don't destroy it. That's one reason.
You know another reason too?
That makes sense.
Who do you think dug that up? It would have most likely been local people. And those local people in Syria aren't the white ones who are interested in doing that type of work. They're local labor. If they destroy this after they see black and brown people being represented as the Hebrews, and there's just a patriarch at that, one of the patriarchs, they will have to do something with these witnesses as well. So there's people that surround the regions of the discoveries that also, just by being a witness, protect the existence of these finds. And sometimes you have doctors or people who specialize in the field that don't have an interest on who is what or when. They sometimes just think this is just somebody's opinion of things, but they just they demonstrate or present what they find. They don't give a care. They don't have a loyalty to a group. Some of these scientists, some, not all. And we hope we have more like that, but it's not always the case, especially when you deal with the artifacts of Egypt. Okay. All right, let's go into some maps now. We're going to go talk about maps, and I love this because this is going to demonstrate, like I said earlier to Sister Monique, we're going to demonstrate that they knew who they were taking. All right?
Come on.
The first map. Map of Africa, created in 1715 by Herman Mole, a London cartographer. Some of them keep the Christian Sabbath. I'm going to read the highlighted for you, okay? I am incredibly informed. Listen to the thinking of this, okay? You got to understand the idea of whiteness, the idea of what whiteness is, and the impossibility of what he heard, all right? Listen to what he said. I am incredibly informed that the country about 100 leagues north of the coast of Guinea, and you see all of that pink southern region of Guinea, is inhabited by white men. Or at least a different kind of people from the blacks. Uh-oh. You're telling me These reason the people aren't the same they're not Africans? Then he says a different kind of blacks who wear clothes and have the use of letters, make silk, and that some of them keep the Christian Sabbath. Now, they assume they have to be white because they were clothed and kept the Sabbath, or they kept the Sabbath in association to what they understood was a Jew at that time. There was a lot of European Jews at that time. The reason they call it the Christian Sabbath, because the Bible has been historically associated with this religion, Christianity only. So the word Sabbath was associated with Christianity. Even though it's a book about a covenant and nationality, that's not how the religion teaches it. So when people think of the Sabbath, they think of the Bible. And when they think of the Bible, they think of Christianity. So this author calls it the Christian Sabbath. Now, any truth associated with Scripture was considered Christian. And that Christianity became synonymous with the Bible itself. That's where you get that from. And also, you have to be careful of how they use the word white. White was not necessarily considered a complexion, but a level of class or education or position. And that is true even to this day. For example, in the U.S. Census, read this myself about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. If I was born in Egypt, Iraq, Iran, according to the U.S. Census, I am white, and I have to be classified as white. If I came to get my citizenship in the United States and I gave them my birth location, I could be as black as midnight. But because I was born and raised in those countries, I'm classified as white.
Oh wow!
Not because my complexion is white, but because of a status, a location. That's in the U.S. Census. I will have to. I'll provide it to the class. I had it a couple of weeks ago. I should have kept it. I have to look it up again. All right. Anybody have any comments?
I have a question. Where it says some of them keep the Christian Sabbath, are we talking Sunday as the first day of the week, or are we talking Saturday as the seventh day of the week?
No. The Sunday worship was never called the Sabbath, ever. It was called the Lord's Day. It was never called the Sabbath. This is strictly talking about the seventh day of the week. He just puts a possession of it as Christian because they associate the Bible mentioning of the Sabbath as a Christian thing because they believe the Bible is a Christian book.
And that word Christian,
but no, it's not talking about Sunday.
Right?
Yes, it means anointed one.
The anointed ones that keep the Sabbath. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
That's a good question. Good point. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Because we're going to do a deep dive in these maps. We got a bunch of them.
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
You wanted to say anything else?
On the previous map, I wanted to ask the location I was looking at. I saw Negro Land, where it says, and it may be difficult for you to see it, but and some of these names have changed. What they were then is not what they are now. So I'm asking this because you may or may not know. Where it says, it's over to the left, by the way. It's over to the right there. Is that Mali today? Is that the word Mali?
Yes. Yes, and these maps won't be drawn properly to scale because Mali was actually a little bit further up. And you see, this is Beres, which is most likely Bernie.
Or Benin.
Right?
Could it be Benin?
Yeah, or what is it, Burkina Faso? Burkina Faso,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, got it. I
might be
understand.
jacking it. I'm terrible with some of these names. I apologize. But yes, this is the Niger area, or Niger area you're talking about, where a
Okay.
lot of stuff is going on. There's Gambia. Gambia is pretty old, so you still will get that. You have Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yes, you're right. The names will change some, such as you have the Slave Coast, which is Ouida or Fida, and as we go to the next slide, you will see what this has been named in many of the maps.
Oh, there's Benin. I was wrong. Benin is over there by the Slave Coast. That's in the pink. There's Benin right there.
Yep.
The Slave Coast of Benin. Yes. Okay. So some of the names remained and some of them changed. I was asking because, there's a lot of upheaval that's going on in that area right now. And I just wanted to look at this map to see where those locations are situated.
Oh, I got a good one in here. I got a good one in here later on.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Yep. Here's a map.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to distract you. I want to comment on the reason why the numbers are padded. The numbers for the European race are padded. Why they're padding the numbers based on location and not on the DNA of the person. Because we've been told for so long that we are the minority. Have we not?
Mm-hmm.
That we are in a protected group. We are a minority. There's not a lot of us in the world. Whenever you see statistics, they're broken down. Black, white, Hispanic. Then they have Indians or on there or something like that. That is it. Okay. So why are they tagging the numbers? Because they are the minority.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the minority. They are the minority. They want us to think that because they have taken over and ruled a lot of things so long that when it's time for the reverse to happen, and the first shall be last and the last shall be first, said by Yahuwah, they don't want us to realize that they are the minority. But it's too late. The world has woke up to that. But this is why they padded them. Even though they padded the numbers and said that the black race, the brown race is the smallest of all the other races, it didn't work because the world knows the truth now.
If you include all the dark races, I'm talking about dark, not even light brown, I'm talking about just dark brown. That would be the majority of Africa, the majority of India, the majority of Southeast Asia, until you get very far east where they become very fair, like in Vietnam, Korea, and China, Japan. It's brown. I mean dark brown. It outnumbers the whites tenfold. It's ridiculous. The numbers are uncomparable. It makes you wonder why. But I'll leave that to another discussion. Let's continue if no one else had anything else to say. All right. Here's another map. 3,000 years old. 300 years old, sorry. 300 years old, created by John Sennick, another London cartographer. Points out in the area of the Slave Coast, right next to Benin, you have the Kingdom of Judah. All right? The Kingdom of Judah. Why would that be there? Why would that be there? We've already discussed language. This is not a coincidence. We've already discussed language in this lesson that shows that the people of the Bantu dialect have a very high probability of originating these dialects from a Proto-Hebrew because the words are just too similar. They're too similar. Now, this is not the only one with Judah. There's another one. See the circle? Judah. This is a map from 1780 created by Rigobert Bonnet, a French map. And it's the Kingdom of Judah right next to Benin. If it's next to Benin, then you know this area will be Nigeria. This is Nigeria.
Brother Andrew.
Now, because this is a French map, I'm sorry, Ms. White, because it's a French map, you won't get the names because it's going to be pronounced and spelled slightly different. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
This is amazing to me, and why it is because currently you have France in many of the African countries right now. And these countries are asking them to leave. And they are being very rigid in that they're not going to remove themselves from these countries. So this map is telling me that they know exactly where they are and the people who they are. And I can even say whose they are. This is why, out of all places, they're refusing to leave these areas for a certain reason, because they know who they are. France knows.
Understand the evil purpose. Understand that evil purpose behind it. They mapped this continent out to steal and take for their own selfish needs. There was no uplifting. Do you imagine if they were being fair to Africa and kind to Africa because the gifts that Africa gave? Africa would be a beautiful, wealthy, and now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of beautiful places now. I'm talking about the places that they take from, like Senegal, or Gambia, the region of Gambia, or Burkina Faso, and Mali, and Niger, all these great resources that France has. Them places are poor. They should be rich as the nations that take. France had no interest in doing anything beneficial. They just kept them entertained just enough to steal. But that's another conversation. I'm going to keep it going. I just wanted you to see that they knew who they were taking, and we're going to build on that.
Okay.
Here's another map. Map of Africa, 1737, created by Johann Matthias Haas, a German cartographer this time. Here, you see Judah, and I don't know if you can read it because I know it's a little small for everybody.
Yes.
But this is Guinea, and this is spelt with the I because it's spelt in Latin. So that means this was spelt with the Y sound. This is a transliteration. Judah, the kingdom of Judah, right by the home.
Oh, Brother Andrew.
What? All these different maps. Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, please. Look at this. This is amazing. You showed us a map. The previous map was a French map. This map is a German cartographer. Who are the two main countries today that are saying we must come together and go to settle the upheaval that's taking place in the west coast of Africa? Is it not Germany? Is it not France?
Who needs that pipeline? Yep.
So you're showing that Germany knows who's over there. They know, and France knows. So there'll be no excuse because they know. They know.
So you might be saying, there might be somebody saying on here, Minister White, but that's just one little spot. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you where you're wrong in a little bit. I'm going to show you, because I agree with you. The main antagonists going on right now were the same ones back then. Here's another map. Published in 1743. Holman Heights. This is during the slave trade. That's why you keep seeing the 1700s. But I got maps that are older than this in this lesson.
Okay.
Okay, but Brother Andrew, let me ask you a question. If they know, and I know they know, who we are, What was the purpose of the Holocaust?
What
Saying
Holocaust?
that those people.
Yeah, what Holocaust?
Oh,
but they had to. One, if you're going to say you're Judah and you're going to say you're Israel, then you have to suffer something and say to try to say that you line up with Deuteronomy 28.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All you got to do is do the math, and you'll know that what's been talked about that Holocaust. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. What they suffered in the wars was a tragedy. It was devastating. They were starved. They were tortured. They were murdered. Yes, a bunch of people were, though. They weren't the only ones.
True.
And they weren't the only ones in those camps. You had soldiers that were Polish, that were Russian, that were American.
True.
They weren't the only ones in those camps. So to say that there were 6 million killed, murdered, no. That was mathematically impossible to do. But that's for another lesson. But it was tragic. I'm not denying the tragedy of it all. Never. I won't let them. They'll try to throw that on me. No, I'm not blind to the tragedy. I understand.
Who created this map?
There's a lot of untruths to that.
I apologize.
Say again?
Who created this map? Is this Germany, France, or where's this particular map from? Do you know this one? Is this created by a German person?
I didn't. I believe this one's German too.
Okay, no problem.
But it's written in Latin as well, or it speaks like Latin, where it says terra for land, for example.
Mm-hmm. You're right. It's Germany, Nuremberg, Germany. You're right. Okay, thank you.
All right, let's continue. Let's look at another map. Map of 1764, created by Jacques Nicole Belin, easy hydrographer to the French king. And you see Judah in very big, bold letters right there in the area of Guinea.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's just, it keeps going on. And France had a lot of interest. Let's continue. With Africa. Why? Because France had nothing for itself. They had to take it from somebody. And here's another map created in 1772 by another French geographer and demographer, Louis Brion de la Tour. Judah.
Brother Andrew.
Yeah.
I would say the reason they made so many maps about the continent of Africa, especially this west coast or the slave coast, is because they found a place where they could easily get the resources that they still need, to further their own society with little or no cost comparatively. So they wanted to make sure they had a clear-cut map of how to get there and back, not just for themselves, but for anyone else that they're sending on their behalf. Here's clear directions on where it's all located, the people that are there, easy to overcome because they're peaceful, whose areas are rich in everything that we need. It's just for the taking.
It was, and the slave trade stabilized that whole area, so no one would stop them. No one could stop it.
Mm-hmm.
To tell you how much the African does not know their history, look where my mouth is at. What rice dish do the Africans love? And they make several versions of it.
True. Jollof rice. Jollof rice. Yes.
Jollof rice.
Yes.
It's French. The word is French in origin.
Oh. I didn't know that.
It's little things like that we don't know. And I wish that we would pay attention and learn our history.
Okay.
So we've talked about many of these maps, but we're going to start discussing a little more. All right? Let's dive into a slightly different region so you can see something. There's more to Africa than just they were just black folks. This is a map from 1866 created by C.B. Colton & Co., a company. This company had an interest in Africa. This is in the southwest side of Africa. And the map shows a town called Jerusalem, a town called Beersheba, a town called Bethany. All of that is in the Bible. Why would they have names like this in the Bible, in these regions?
Mm-hmm.
These weren't settled by Jews, and you don't see colonial powers settling in a region and just simply naming them Bible cities, Bible towns.
Mm-hmm.
This is just another hint to who the people are in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Now the next map you're going to find very interesting. I couldn't find the exact date, but I know it was the mid-1800s, and it was created by the Oni School of Geography. It speaks of Abyssinia, a huge kingdom of Ethiopia. All right, that's important. During this time, Ethiopia was much bigger than what you see today. Huge. It was bigger than the United States. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Modern day Sudan, or Sudan, was a Nubian region, but this map places it far west originally. In the Nubian region would have been just south of Egypt, right where my mouth is. This area was considered Nubia.
Okay.
All right, and the Sudan is this area right now, but they say that it's over here. Now, I bring this map up for a reason. I want you to understand why this map is important. Because look where Ethiopia is. It's huge. It goes from the Horn all the way to the Slave Coast. And Abyssinia is right here.
It sure is.
All right? So we're gonna build on it. Keep this in mind. We're gonna build on this, and I need to show the next map to build on this.
Can I ask a question about the name Sudan? Do you have that in here? In your teaching?
I did not define it. I know what you're gonna say.
Go ahead.
I did not define it because the reason I didn't is because I didn't want, it was difficult to get the language, the proof of the language to show the people. And that's the problem. I didn't have I wish I had the skill set of some of where I learned that from, but I did not have it to be able to put it in here, so I did not define it. If you want to, please speak to it.
Well, in Arabic, Sudan is the land. It's the land of the black people.
Yeah,
it's the land of the black people in Arabic. It sure is. And
and it has
Sudan is actually the way the French enunciate it. In English, it would be Suda. So this place is named by the French. How do you go to someone else's land and change the name? So Sudan is not the authentic name of that land. How about that? Okay. I just wanted to highlight.
No.
Thank you.
No problem.
Oh, and one more thing.
Let's keep in mind.
Sorry, one more thing. Merriam-Webster, they have a definition for it also in their dictionary, in dictionary.com, if anyone is interested. It means the people there that are friendly. and they also appear to be friendly, and they are very intimate and in a very hearty way. You see why it was just resources for France for the picking? Because of the nature of the people. And that's in the dictionary, in the dictionary.com. If you just look up the word Sudan, Soudan, you'll find that definition. Thank you, Brother Andrew.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So keep in mind the region of Ethiopia, right? And see how large it is. Let's move to the next slide. Before I speak to the importance of that, I want to show you again. Here's a map in 1729. All right?
Mm-hmm.
It shows you how Ethiopia goes to the Horn, from the Horn, all the way to the coast. All right? Very large.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go another one. A map in 1737. Listen to how Africa used to be called Ethiopia. You have Ethiopia Superior. This is in Latin. You have, this is the Ethiopian Ocean. You have the Ethiopia Inferior and Anterior.
Mm-hmm.
All of this was Ethiopia. All the way to the interior of Negro land. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
To prove to you that they used to call Africa Ethiopia, look at this map. It is approximately 400 BCE. It was drawn by the Greeks. And this was a drawing of the known world. At this time, they knew Northern Africa as its biblical name, Libya and Egypt, of course. Anything south of Egypt was called Ethiopia. The whole south and southwest of Africa was Ethiopia. Now, I want to point something out to you.
Mm-hmm.
Notice you don't see a southern Africa. Most of Africa at this time was not known to be heavily populated. That happened after much of the dispersion of the Hebrews into Africa. They started to populate the southern and western regions of Africa. But at that time, most exploring and interest in further down in Africa did not exist. So at the time, they called most of Africa Ethiopia and the Ethiopians. That was the mindset even as far back as BCE. And this is according to Herodotus.
So there's no, I'm looking for Israel on that map. That's in, I don't see it. Is that because it's I'm being facetious. Okay.
I know you are. I know you are. Because they didn't call it by that.
Okay. Okay.
That is strictly a Jewish thing. Strictly. So why am I talking about this? Because our understanding of what Ethiopia was during the time of Scripture points to the real people of Israel, of Yah, and who they really are. Excuse me. And of course, we're going to talk about it right here in these verses. Zephaniah 3, chapter 3, 7 through 10. I said, surely thou wilt fear me. Thou wilt receive instruction. So their dwellings should not be cut off, howsoever I punish them. But they rose early and corrupted all their doing. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to go gather the nation, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. Woo! For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, not just any people either, that they may all call upon the name of Yahuwah to serve him with one consent. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliant worshippers, even the daughter of my dispersed, his people, shall bring mine offering. So he's telling you where they're dispersed from. Now, I just told you at the time that this was written that the known area of Ethiopia was indeed the bulk of Africa. So, going back here, where are the rivers of Ethiopia? They weren't just the ones that were to the eastern parts of Africa, near Israel, as they tried to teach you. It was into the deep heart of Africa. And you're not going to find but one group of people there. You're not going to find the European Jewish people at all. You're going to find a Bantu dialect-speaking people of various shades of brown, from dark, very dark, to very fair. That's the Israel that's living beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. That's why knowing the true representation of Ethiopia is very important, because it tells you where the rivers really are. They're far beyond what we thought. We think it's just the Horn of Africa. So it must be just those Ethiopian Hebrews we hear about today, just on the very East Coast. No, it goes beyond that.
Brother Andrew.
It goes beyond that. Yes, ma'am.
Your last bullet, I want to ask a question, please, about the last bullet, where it says they would be south and far west of current Ethiopia. You may have said it. I didn't hear it. I'm just asking again. Did you indicate what that would look like on the map? Far south, and I think you said and west, because would not North America be west of Ethiopia, or no?
It is. It is. As a result of the four corners of being dispersed, according to Deuteronomy 28, those who were beyond the river of Ethiopia, which was here and here and here, have been dispersed greatly because of the slave trade. So they're even further beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. So it still falls in line. The reason I said the way I said it is because, according to modern maps, Abyssinia is modern day Ethiopia today, roughly right up in this area.
Okay.
So the rivers beyond the rivers of Ethiopia would include all the way here and south. And we know for a fact it's south because even the Limba, I believe, are in the south. Correct. And even the Jewish state of Israel believe that the Limba are a lost tribe. Sure. Even they couldn't deny it.
Okay. Thank you.
So, you're welcome. I got one more map to show you. So we know they can't say, oh, it's just Judah. I just showed you Ethiopia, right? But I got another map as well. Let's look at this one. This is the first printed atlas of Africa, published in 1588 and created by geographer Livio Sanuto. It's done in Latin. And this says here, Iu Deorum Terra. If you know the transliteration of Latin and Greek, you know that says Judea. It says the land of Judea, the land of Judah.
Judah's territory.
That is a huge area. And it wasn't just this region. That's where we've been looking at, where it says the kingdom of Judah. This is telling you this region, which was the land of Ethiopia on the previous map. That wasn't even as old as this map, by the way. They're saying that the same region was the land of Judah. There's your third witness. just by the math.
Oh, Brother Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
This whole time, throughout this tonight, this lesson, you have repeatedly said the land of Judah, or the kingdom of Judah, or the territory of Judah. Is it not clear that all 12 tribes were not overall included in that territory? Is it not clear? Which is why it's named, which is why it's titled
very clear.
the land of Judah, or the territory of Judah, or the kingdom of Judah. So when we say that the slave coast took place from those areas, and that most of the people in the scattered coastal areas, and especially in North America, in the United States of America, are Judites, or from Judah, this is the reason why those statements are so emphatically made. Any thoughts on that?
One of the when I think of the way they name regions, they go by what they hear. For example, today, when we say Jews, they say it signifies all Hebrews. It's supposed to be all Hebrews, all Jews. Jews are considered Hebrews, it's synonymous, even though it's supposed to be a derivative of Judah. So when they say a Judean, they're strictly saying someone who came from the southern region of Israel. It doesn't necessarily have to mean the tribe of Judah.
So why doesn't
Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, why doesn't it say the tribe of Israel? Why doesn't it say the kingdom of Israel? Why doesn't it say the territory?
Because
go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Because I believe that one, Israel, we know the northern kingdom was already gone. They've been gone for a long time.
That's my point. Yes. Go ahead.
The reason why I say that there has to be a mixed multitude here is because there's other historical contexts that don't show it in this lesson right this part. But we know that the tribe of Dan, the Ashanti, the Limba, all have oral history that point to certain tribes, not just Judah. Not just Judah. Okay. What I will say this, and this is probably why this is conjecture, they named it this, is because the predominant representation would have been the tribe of Judah, because the more immediate exile, running, and population movements would have been from the southern kingdom. That would have been the greatest impression on Africa at the time, because the northern kingdom would not have been able to easily run into Africa.
True.
It would have been mostly Judah, Benjamites, Levites, and Judeans. But I do believe also that there is a mixed multitude in Africa because of some of the oral history. But I think predominant, the majority, is Judah. And that's why I think they named that.
I agree.
Now, we normally do an hour.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. No, that's a good question, because it does lead you to that point that you were making. And I would agree with you, only to the point where we do have a few instances where that would say, well, we got some Dan here, Shanti, that come from a different area, and Gad, and so on. Now, we normally do an hour in the lesson. If we want to go further and push this a little further, we can, because I have more maps. Or we can go ahead and hold it tonight and continue in part 24. It's up to the audience. I'm good either way.
I would say
we got about.
Go ahead.
You say what?
How many more slides do we have left? Did you say that you wanted? Is it just one more?
That's what I was about to say. I said we got. No, with the next map, I need about 3 slides. So we got about 17 more slides left.
Yeah,
so we can stop here and just go ahead and finish it up. 17, 16 more slides. 16 more slides left. And we can finish it up next week.
Mm-hmm.
We'll finish up some additional maps, which are amazing. I have a map from the 1400s. That's the actual globe, the first globe, one of the oldest globes, the world's oldest globe, and it's German. So I got that here, and a few other additional historical facts that we didn't talk about in the previous sections, and that's what we'll end up doing next time. So I hope this piques everybody's interest, that they need to understand that history speaks the truth. You have to do some digging, of course, because the world don't want you to know it. Because what you're saying, what you're standing up and saying is something so crazy. I told my daughter today, I said, the world will say you're crazy for what you're saying. Because you're telling the people who you are and where you're from, and it doesn't match what they want to believe. But your daddy and the teachers that teach you this can prove it, not just by history, but by science and DNA and oral history and written history. You got to stand on the truth, but you got to want it. I hope the audience is open. I don't give a care if you're Jewish, white, Chinese, or Mexican. I don't care. Open yourself to the truth. It sets you free. And be willing to accept what history is telling you. History is telling you. So I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I hope that you also join us in part 24 when we finish up this section of the FAQ series. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, everyone.